Hello, everyone. This is Tisha coming to you on this beautiful day. I thank God for whew, just for who He is. He is so amazing as how He deals with me, but it's even more amazing when He goes even deeper, and God will take you in places that sometimes you don't want to go into because He does it to strip you of your flesh. So he was dealing with me about walking alone. Now, some people hear that and they preach about it, about walking alone when you are ministering to people and you feel like nobody has your back. But that's not the level that he went on. And the way he talked about it, oh my Lord. Okay, so I have to share this with you because that's why he has me put this video up. Okay, so he was dealing with me that a lot of you have been walking alone right now, and a lot of you are walking alone. Some of you used to walk alone and have realized and submitted to the solution so you no longer walk alone. Okay, so what you mean that I'm walking alone? Well, some of you would probably say is you're walking without God. You're walking without God. God is not with you. He's not holding your hand because you have left him. He's not leading you or guiding you because you told him you got this. Now, some of you probably are saying, I have never voiced that to God and told him I got this. I have cried my eyes out to him. I have prayed until I was blue in the face to him, asking him to do something for me. Well, God said that you have never surrendered to him. See, when you pray to God, it's supposed to be an act of surrender when you pray to God. Even your praise is an act of surrender. So, therefore, when you are praying to God, you have to surrender your will to God. And if you're not surrendering your will to God, you're not going to allow him to direct your paths. And how can he direct your paths if you haven't surrendered to him? So a lot of you are praying vain prayers. And you wondering why it's like every time you pray, it get worse and worse. So the devil makes you believe, and some people like, okay, why would the devil do this? But I'm telling you, he does this. He will make you believe that the reason why this getting worse because, hey, devil over here just attacking you because you're a Christian. No, that's not what's going on. It's getting worse because you haven't submitted to God. You haven't surrendered your will to God, which means doing anything on your own. So because of that, you have been walking alone. You're not walking with God. It's getting worse because you're still trying to walk without God. And God gave me this scenario with my own self. Okay, so years ago, I had asked this person to give me transportation so that I may run my errands. Okay, this person, they said, hey, this is Jesus' car. So in my mind, I was like, oh, okay. So that means that you're going to serve God with this vehicle. That's the way I took it. Okay. So anytime this person took me places, of course, it was on their time. And I always offer gas money. They only took it a couple of times. Okay. So one day they came to me and they told me, do you think that you need to start catching public transportation instead of that person lifting me to places I needed to go. So immediately I got offended. And the reason why, when someone put emphasis and strongly, boldly say that something that's in their life belongs to God and that it's not theirs, they don't have ownership to it, that's some bold words to be saying. And you have to be careful when you speak stuff like that because God will show up and show you. He will show you your heart, not just to you, but even to people you're speaking it to. That's why you have to watch your words, which you speak. And so when they said that, I'm looking like, but this is, you said this is Jesus' car. That's how I was looking at it. But I was depending on them for transportation because of them speaking those words. Because when you say that you're going to serve God, that means that that's an act of not being selfish, which means a selfless act, which means that you put God and his needs and his desires before your own. So when it comes to serving his people, it's whatever God says reference to that person. So if God tells you, hey, I want you to run this person somewhere, you're supposed to do it, put willing to sacrifice your needs before that person. Now, one thing God brought up to me reference to this situation is that sometimes we think that we are just lovers for God's people and we're just lovers for his word and lovers for God and all this and that. So through the flesh, we get lifted up in pride and we just think that we just, this good Christian. But not realizing that there's something within your heart that's not right. It's not lining up with God and his word. And you can't say that you're going to be a Christian and you don't have a heart to serve. Because the first person you have to learn to serve is God. Because everything involved in Christianity is serving God. So even when you're serving other people, you're serving God. But if you have not learned how to serve God, you messed up. And if you don't want to serve God, you're messed up because you can't be selfish. You have to be willing to make sacrifices. And the example God gave to me was that, let's say, that when it comes to certain situations and circumstances that you are not willing to drive someone somewhere. For example, if a person calls you and said, hey, I need you to take me to 3 different stores. It's raining outside, pouring rain. We might be out in about 2 hours because it depends on the traffic and the rain. Now, if you know that that's a situation and circumstance that you're not willing to do, you're not going to want to do it. So it's bad to tell that person up front, hey, when it comes to rain, I don't do rain. Now, if you're trying to get delivered from self and you're claiming to be a Christian, there will be times that God will have you go out in the rain. So you got to willing to sacrifice you not wanting to drive in the rain. Because you can't allow what God is doing in the earth, like his reign, to stop you for doing what you are called to do. So back to the situation about the transportation. So some people probably looked at that, was like, blase, that person was low down or whatever. Okay, it's not even about that. What it's about that person says they made a word, they made a covenant, they didn't keep it, they broke it. That's why the word of God says, curses he that put their trust in man. Because we're supposed to trust God more than we trust man. Because man will lie, man break promises. That's why I tell people, because God have led me to speak this, because he had to teach me this. When you don't know yourself, or if you know yourself, as far as what you don't want to do, that you are still dealing with as far as selfishness, and you know that's something that you want God to deliver you from, tell people that by the grace of God and according to His will, I pray that I'll be able to do this or that for you. And if they are mature, they will understand that, hey, you have some spiritual warfare going on in your flesh that causes you to be selfish at times. So, that being said, if a situation happened where the flesh win, they could be understandable as far as not get so offended. And that eliminates that. But even explain that to them, like, hey girl, or hey boy, whatever, hey, I'm struggling with sacrifice. I'm struggling with serving for God. Let them know up front to eliminate all chaos. And that keeps peace, because we're supposed to keep peace between people. And we're not supposed to be causing people to get offended. And so, with that situation, I had looked at it and I was like, oh, they blaspheming God's name, and they said that this is God's car or whatever. How dare you speak that about my father? That's how I felt, because I was really mad, more mad about that, because I was like, I can't believe they did that. But God told me, He said, yeah, I understand everything that you're saying. But the problem is, I love when God get me together. He said, the problem is you did not surrender transportation to me. And I'm looking like, yes, I did. I was like, okay, I did. Because every time I get in the car with this person, I pray for safe travels. I pray for God's protection. I pray they do not get in road rage, because I have seen it happen before. I pray that, everything will be a blessed time in the vehicle with them. I pray that every time. I pray, and I'm like, God, I acknowledge you in this. That's what I say. Lord, He's so awesome. So God was like, that's not acknowledging me in your transportation. And so in my mind, I'm looking like, what you mean? So I was, a little bit confused. And so He was like, you did not come to me and say, Father, I yes, I have asked this person to take me places to run errands, but I'm coming to you to surrender this to you, my transportation, because I don't have a car right now. So I'm asking you to give me favor and provision so that I can get to the places I need to go to run errands. And I ask for your grace, your traveling grace also, and your mercy, to accomplish these things. That's not the prayer I pray to God. I pray specifically about the person that was taking me places. But see, if I would have prayed the prayer about acknowledging God in my transportation without involving the other person, as far as like I did pray, I wouldn't have got so offended, because that's how God dealt with me. I wouldn't have got so offended when the person made a statement, said, hey, I don't want to take you places no more. I wouldn't have got so offended, because I would have been content and humble. It'd be like, okay, I already talked to God. He got this. I have no worries. But I was more mad because they brought Him up in the beginning, about transportation. And that's what made me furious, because, like I said, I was offended. And I had to go and apologize to God for getting offended. But I had to forgive them for them causing me to get offended. But when God dealt with me about that, I didn't surrender, because He was like, you was walking along when it came to transportation. You was walking along in it because you did not surrender it to me, and that's why you dealt with what you dealt with. I had to wait on that person to get ready to leave when they felt like it. And like I said, they didn't take the gas money every time. They only took it when they needed it, whatever, which was fine. I didn't mind. But one thing about me, like I tell people, that if I got it, I got it. But God had me give them always more than enough. And the reason why, because He spoke this word to me: you give unto people what you want me to give unto you, not what you want them to give unto you. Because I used to operate out of what I want people to give to me. And when I started doing that, I wasn't seeing like I was being blessed. And God really had to deal with me about that, because not only was giving people how I felt like they would give to me, but I was giving how I would give to myself. And you can either give too much or you can give too little. But when you give according to how you want God to bless you, you give more than enough, which means it's not too much and it's not too little, but is what God have established and said that this is what I want you to give to this person, whether it's your time. Because sometimes we put a time limit on spending time with people, and spending time with them in the Word and being a light for them. We put a time frame on it. But when God is in the midst, it's according to God's time and not your own. And yeah, I know that some people, or a lot of people, are still struggling with this because of things that happen in life. But it still is no excuse. We have to put God first. So, like I said, when God dealt with me that I was not surrendering the transportation, He started dealing with me even more about everything else I wasn't surrendering. So, that being said, when you are dealing with stuff, and like I said, things are getting worse, and you think that, oh, it's an attack of the enemy. Yeah, it is, but it's not the kind of attack that you think it is, because you haven't surrendered to God and told God, okay, Lord, whatever you want to happen, okay, I'm all in, because you all I got. But the problem is that we don't surrender because, for one, fear, and two, for unbelief. We don't want to be talked about. Somebody's always talking about you. So don't worry about that. People talk about Jesus. They did when He was on the earth. And people still talk about Jesus. People that's not even saved talk about Jesus. And you would probably not think that, but oh yeah, they do. And it would shock you, some stuff that you hear. But that's one thing. You don't want nobody to talk about you. You're insecure. You like, oh, you embarrassed, you ashamed, and all this and that. And you start feeling that way about yourself. You start stripping your identity, allowing the enemy to get in your thoughts. So you self-destruct your own self. And, and then fear of not knowing what's going to happen next. That's another thing. Those things keep you from surrendering your will to God. Because when you don't surrender to God, you always find a way to do something on your own. When you do anything on your own, it backfires, it gets worse, it doesn't get better. Because see, one thing about, it's a difference when a storm comes and the rainbow comes after it. But it's another thing that when a tornado comes, and then next you get a hurricane, the next you get a flood, then you get an earthquake, then you get volcano eruptions, then you got fires and all, then you got snowstorms, hail, all that breaking loose. Any kind of storm you could think that ever happened on the earth, you think about that. All you got the hail balls just coming down hard, whatever. You having a freeze storm, whatever kind of storm is coming, and it's stopping. It never ends. And it's like after you get to the end where it's ice on the ground and you can't go out, you in a drought, it starts back over. Tornadoes again. And it's like, oh wow, these storms are not stopping. There's never sun out again. It's not the rainbow's not coming out. And it's because you have put yourself in these situations and it's not changing. Your season is supposed to change. Seasons don't stay the same. If you're in the same season for a long time, something is wrong. Because there's a difference when God is stripping you from something in a season. But keep in mind, seasons don't last forever. Because even when you look at a calendar, you have spring, summer, fall, winter. Fall do not last for a year. Winter does not last for a year. Spring does not last for a year. And summer does not last for a whole year. Now, you have to find out what season that you are in to know. But a lot of times you are putting yourself in seasons because you haven't surrendered your will to God. You are telling God, hey, I got this. I can pull myself out of this situation. And because you're choosing of doing that, stuff is going to keep getting worse. And not just that, or you saying, well, hey, I'm going to ask my pastor to help me get out of this situation. Or I'm going to ask such and such. I'm going to depend on them. That's another issue. God does not want you depending on yourself or anybody else more than Him. You're supposed to come to God first. He's supposed to be your source. And a lot of times you depend on other people as your source and even yourself instead of God. And that's not going to help you get out your season. It's going to make it worse. And see, a lot of times we don't tie the stuff we're dealing with to sin. When you are not in the will of God, that's sin. When you have not surrendered your will to God, that's sin. So you can't get out of sin by doing a act of self. That's not how it works. And a lot of times you, in your mind, like, oh, I just have to do this. No, where's God? Your Father is waiting on you, but you haven't surrendered. He wants to take care of you. He's supposed to be your help, but you're not making Him your help. And one thing God dealt with me that He brought to me tonight, and like I said, all this, He been bringing this up to me tonight. And I'm just like, oh my Lord, like, God, this is so awesome, such an awesome word. And He said a lot of times we are afraid to start from the bottom of the ladder and allow God to work us up to the top of the ladder because we believe that we're at the top of the ladder. But God told me, He said, you're not at the bottom of the ladder. You're not even at the top of the ladder. The devil made you believe that you at the top of the ladder. He has sent a strong illusion to make you believe that you somewhere that you are not. But okay, so you like, okay, well, I'm not at the top of the ladder, and I'm not at the bottom, so where are you? You're in the dirt. You're deep under the soil. That's where you at. You ain't even begin to get to the bottom of the ladder. And the reason why you underground is because you're in your own will. So God has to send His help. But before God sent His help, He speaks to you, but you're not listening. So He sent His help. Say, hey, I need y'all to get some shovels. Come dig this person out. Because I need them to start at the bottom of this ladder and climb their way up to the top of the ladder. But the devil has made you believe that you are at the top and you don't even know what the top is. You do not know how to comprehend the top. You haven't even matured to be at the top of the ladder. There is growth that has to happen to get at the top. But you're in the dirt. God has to dig you out. And that's the problem that we don't realize, because when you allow Satan to get in your ears, it will make you believe that you're somewhere that you're not. because you haven't surrendered your will to God, and you will continue to deal with stuff until you do. And that's something that I pray daily, and I'll be like, God, don't let me get in self. I don't want to be walking alone. I don't want to be doing anything outside of your spirit, because when you trust in yourself and other people, it's always going to fail. You got an F every time. You only get A pluses when you include God in it and you say, God, take the wheel. Because it doesn't happen when you do it yourself. And when God sent helpmate to dig you out that dirt, stop getting offended. And that's the problem. We get offended and we get insulted and we be like, da da da. You know, we run our mouth and put our mouth on that person, not realizing they're just there to help you, to dig you out, to help you so you can start at the bottom of this ladder and climb up to the top so you can see the glory of God. And then you can go and tell somebody else your testimony, like, hey, I was in the dirt. God had to take shovels to dig me out. And I didn't even know what the bottom was until I started from the bottom. But you're in the dirt when you are doing your own will. And that's what Satan has people do all the time. And you be sitting there thinking that you're right with God because you're going to church, that you pray, that you read the Bible, that you sing worship songs or do praise dances, whatever that you make believe that you're doing, or even helping people. And you're not even at the bottom of the ladder because you're still in the dirt. Which means that the things that you have been doing, God have not been receiving pleasure. Because he's waited on you, but you don't realize it. And that's the problem. And see, one thing, I love God and I love God's people. And I'm not boasting in that when I say that. But the one thing about when you love God and you love his people, you hate to see people deal with unnecessary. And I say unnecessary because when they don't know, they in the dirt. I was in the dirt in plenty of situations in my life. And I didn't realize I was in dirt because I thought, hey, I'm at the top of the ladder. No, I wasn't nowhere near the ladder. And I thought I was at the top because, hey, I was going to church, I was reading my Bible, I was singing, whatever. But I wasn't even at the bottom. I mean, I was in dirt. And God had to dig me out and show me myself, like, hey, you didn't include me in that. You told me that you got this. So I just let you do whatever you want to do. But God he's still waiting on you to come back. And it's not too late, but you have to start from somewhere and stop making up excuses of the reason why you have not surrendered your will to God. Do not say, well, the reason why I have not done it because this is going on and I want you to do this or I want you to do that. And so in your mind, you think, oh, well, God, he's so understandable. God is looking at you and saying, hey, you're being selfish. You're not thinking about me. You're thinking about yourself. And God does not want you to be operating in self. He wants you to operate in his spirit. You know, I understand that, yes, we make mistakes. We all make mistakes. But when it comes to the will of God, you need to surrender your will and let go. Let go. Let go, fall in, surrender it. Surrender through faith. You have to do it through faith in your love for God. And a lot of you are loving yourself and other people and other things more than God, and you have not surrendered your will to God. Please stop walking along, because I hate to see people do that. And you can only pray for people. You can tell them so much that, hey, God told me you ain't surrendered. They have to get to that on their own. And some people never get to it, which is sad, but it's true. And some people, it takes them longer than others. It doesn't matter what your age is. Some people still haven't surrendered to God, and they in their old age. So it's best to do it now. And so you watching this video, and if you don't know if there's an area of your life that you have been surrendered to God, that you have been making decisions without Him, seek God and pray. Pray now, like after this video over, and ask God, like, Lord, if there's an area of my life that I am walking alone without you, reveal it to me. Reveal it to me. Because God always wants you to need Him. Stop saying that you're going to get to a place where you don't need God. That's a lie from hell. Because that's what Satan will tell you. Satan and his demons in hell will tell you that, hey, you ain't going to need God for everything. No, that's a lie. Because that's not written anywhere in the Bible saying, hey, we would never need God. No. You will always need God. So don't let Satan deceive you and have you walking alone. Because that's the author of confusion. That's lies that Satan will tell you. And once again, like I said, if you're concerned about where you go start at, keep in mind you're not even at the bottom of the ladder, nor the top. You're far from the top of the ladder. You're still in the dirt. Let God dig you out. And I pray that you was blessed. And I thank God for this word, because when He spoke this to me, like I said, it really it really touched my spirit. And I'm just like, Lord, like, whew, Jesus, help us, Lord. Because you don't want to be in a place where you never get out the dirt. Never. But in order for you to become treasure, you have to get out the dirt. Because see, God sees that you are treasure, that you will be His bright treasure. But the thing about it, you have to get out the dirt and start climbing that ladder. That's what you have to do. So, like I said, after you finish watching this video, say a prayer and pray to God and ask God to reveal to you if there's an area in your life that you have not surrendered to Him, that you are walking alone without God. Because Satan send distractions and he make them distractions worse. God get rid of distractions. You don't want to be idolizing yourself or anything or anyone. You don't want to do that. Submit to God's will, because the word of God says, acknowledge the Lord in all your ways and He will direct your path. He didn't say acknowledge yourself in all of your ways and direct your own paths. That's not the word. So stop singing and quoting Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 and not doing it, because you have not surrendered your will to God. But even as you read Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, ask God help you to live out this word. Because Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 says, trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not to thy own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your paths. Be blessed in the name of Jesus Christ, and you have a blessed night and sweet rest in the Lord. All glory be to God.